Welcome to Haunt Weekly.
Hello, everyone. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And this is Haunt Weekly, a weekly podcast in haunted attraction, haunted entertainment community. Whether you're an actor, owner, or just plain aficionado, we aim to be a podcast for you. And in these very unusual and difficult times, we try to bring to you good, useful information.
Yes.
And since we don't have any, as a general rule, we seek out people smarter than us. It turns out not to be very difficult to do. But we get some really great, intelligent people to help us out with this. And to that end, we have invited a friend of ours, a HauntCon presenter, Chris Gay from HauntTechTips.com to join us on this. Chris, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Well, Chris, thank you for joining us. I can only imagine how busy you are.
It's been interesting, that's for sure.
Why don't you tell me why you are so busy?
Well, with the COVID-19 pandemic, we're here in South Jersey. If you look at the map, we're the very tiny bottom bit of the state. It's finding its way here and just working pretty much the next 12 days straight. So work
what
as
are you working as?
Yeah.
So I'm the volunteer chief of the Upper Township Rescue Squad. Also work as a firefighter EMT with another agency. So between the two agencies, pretty much scheduled nonstop between those, working as firefighter EMT and just general emergency planning for all of this, trying to get our supplies squared away, the N95 masks, the gowns, gloves, things of that nature.
Right. Well, thank you very much for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us.
And also thank you for what you do in your day jobs, plural.
Right.
Yes.
Keeping us safe while we're literally stuck at home.
Yeah.
We appreciate all that you do, both for the haunt community at HauntTechTips.com, by the way. Definitely check that out. That's a wonderful resource for haunted attraction. Well, tech tips. I mean, it's kind of in the name. I don't really know what you want from me.
It was a really good name.
It was very well named. I can't expand upon it. I can't say any more succinctly. But yes, so thank you for all that you do.
Okay.
So
before we jump into all of the things about what haunts can do in a situation similar to this, if not this one, give us a little bit of your haunting background.
So started out as a home haunter at my parents' house way back in the day. They had a huge front porch, so always had a nice display there. Went to college and immediately got drafted by the theater department for their haunted charity fundraiser, Haunted Herman.
I love how you say it, drafted, by the way. I love the term drafted.
Yeah, my roommate was he was an actor and found out I did tech things and, hey, you should come check this out. And 3 hours later, I was in charge of the tech side. I don't know how it happened, but it did.
3 hours? That's a wartime promotion right there.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That went from there and did some traveling as an actor. You might have seen us at a few different conventions. National Haunters Convention in Pennsylvania, we were the New Jersey Ghostbusters, and we toured haunts as Ghostbusters as touring queue line actors, kind of before traveling acting was cool.
Yeah.
All over
fun.
Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Delaware. We went as far as Georgia for a haunt, I believe, or no. Georgia. We went all the way down there. So
where in Georgia? Just out of curiosity.
It was down for Dragon Con, and right after that, I don't remember what show we hit, but one of the shows that opened way early. That was years ago, though.
Yeah, we're familiar with Dragon Con.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Very cool.
And since then, joined with my fire department, Ocean View Fire, and we run the Ocean View Trail of Terror every year. They ran that for about 5 years before I joined the department. It shut down due to just no one, but these things get huge and no one had the time to dedicate to it. But, well, I'm a haunter, so I found an opportunity and restarted it. We're on our 4th year now.
Wow.
Nice.
Growing huge.
Yeah, there's like a sweet spot with haunts where people can find time to do them, but they get bigger than that. It becomes a tactical challenge. And if it's smaller than that, no one has interest. It's like a sweet spot. So, yeah, I understand how haunts can outgrow the people that are working on it, especially if it's a largely volunteer thing. Very, very cool, though. So tell me what you do with Haunt Tech Tips.
So Haunt Tech Tips started out as a podcast, and we kind of moved over to the YouTube side of things. Not going to lie, YouTube was getting a lot more views, a lot more listens. The podcast is uploaded to YouTube, and I just saw that on the podcast side of things, it was getting a few hundred listens, and on the YouTube side, it was getting tens of thousands. So moved all of my personal stuff over to YouTube. Now it's mostly the YouTube channel, some Facebook posts as well, a lot of behind the scenes on the haunt, how I'm doing things, how I'm using the prop controller to control this, that, the other, some behind the scenes walkthroughs of our haunt and some other haunts that have opened up, as well as just conventions, trade shows, things like that.
Yeah, I've got to say, it's kind of like the pinnacle of what we were talking about on a previous podcast, where there was a time in the haunt industry, everyone was so secretive. And it's like the industry just all at once with the internet grew past that. When we hit a point where we're not protecting those secrets, like people are like, I'm not sharing how I make my peppers ghost. And now we have great resources like yours to help guide through some very complicated projects that would normally be way over my head, that's for sure. But yeah, you do a great job explaining it and making it easy for dum-dums like me.
Well, hey, and I get the acting tips from you guys, so it's wonderful.
But yeah, so all in all, great work all around. And like I said, amazing stuff. Right? And then where are you located again, by the way? You said it was the southern part of New Jersey.
Cape May, New Jersey. If you look at the map, we're the little dangly bit right at the bottom of the state, so we're easy to find.
Okay, that may be the only time the little dangly bit at the bottom may be used in a safer work environment.
Yes.
So I just had to take the opportunity to repeat it for that reason.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, things are a little crazy, I think is the word we're all after. Walk us through what's going on and what you're seeing in your line of work right now.
So what's interesting for us, we're in a very seasonal area. It's actually terrible for my haunt because we're near a beach, and all the people that go to the beach leave at the end of the summer. So we don't have any official, and I say official cases yet because no tested cases in our county. However, they're also not getting back test results yet in our county. So there may be cases, we don't know that, but we're in a low population this time of the year area. We're also a peninsula, so our supplies all come from Northwest. So that is a hitching point as well. Any help, any mutual aid, any FEMA, all comes from Northwest because East is water, South is water, West is water, then Delaware.
And no one wants to talk about Delaware.
Yes. But we're seeing a lot of people with the fear of it. Unfortunately, the pollen is out in the air now, so everyone I can probably hear it in my voice even. The pollen gets me every year this time, so people are looking at the news and they're thinking, oh my God, I have a sore throat, I've got corona. Probably not. It's probably the pollen, it's probably the flu, it's probably a cold, whatever it may be.
Oh, I have tragic sinuses. I mean, so God only knows what I have.
Right.
Yeah. I actually started my allergy regimen again because our car is yellow from the pollen. So
it's normally quite white.
Yeah.
Or so I'm told. I have no evidence of that right now. Yeah, I agree completely. Go ahead. Sorry.
No worries. And yeah, we get that here. There's a week in the spring where it looks like it snowed, but it's yellow. So we'll see that soon. And there are confirmed cases, the county north of us, the county west of us. So at this point, we're surrounded. And we're also seeing, oddly enough, tourism due to the school closures, due to the businesses letting employees work from home. Last weekend, I'm hearing the beach was actually busy.
Oh, so, wow.
Son of a bitch.
We have one hospital. Exactly.
So it's not like it is here. New Orleans here, we're on, I wouldn't say lockdown. We're allowed to leave the house, but the next thing, there's no bars, no restaurants.
The restaurants are takeout only right now.
Takeout only, no like sit-down restaurants.
No.
They closed the bars in New Orleans, people.
Yeah.
Just stop and think.
Yeah, maybe not go to the beach in a place that doesn't have confirmed cases and bring it to them. Maybe not do that.
Exactly.
In fact, they're saying here that Mardi Gras was the incubator.
Yeah.
And Mardi Gras was the, because Mardi Gras happened about a month ago now? No.
3 weeks.
3 weeks ago, yeah, about 3 weeks ago now. So they're saying that Mardi Gras might have been how we got so lit so quick.
And that's the concern here. We had, obviously, St. Paddy's Day. A lot of people came down for that because there's a big bar scene. It's the shore, and, well, that's what we have is the bars and the beach. So a lot of out of town. We saw Maryland, Virginia, Delaware, New York, Pennsylvania plates all over the place last weekend. So, and that was before the big restrictions came out on Monday, which is part of why the restrictions came out on Monday for this area.
Right.
Right, makes sense. Yeah, so it's, like I said, it's crazy times. I'm glad you don't have any confirmed cases there, though. Mm-hmm. I feel better saying that if we knew testing was on point.
Yeah.
Oh, that is as of 3:18 at 4 p.m. Who knows when this goes live?
This goes live Monday. Oh, God, I didn't think about this. Things changes. So, in fact, it's bad because we recorded on Sunday for last week's. Recorded late.
Uh-huh.
And then by the time I put it out, less than like 12 hours later, about 12 to 14 hours later, stuff had changed again.
Yep.
Exactly.
So, yeah. This is such a fluid situation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, one thing that I found interesting, and this came up in my research for the previous news episode, was I started thinking about, oh, God, last Friday was Friday the 13th. Now, the big restrictions, as you said, hadn't been put into place, but a lot of haunts had Friday the 13th events planned. And one of them, it was their last night ever. Scream World in Houston. Most of those events went on as planned. 20 of the 29 I was able to locate. So, yeah, what are the risks a haunted attraction would face, or people going to a haunted attraction would face in this type of pandemic situation?
So my information, it's from cdc.gov, which that's where the official information's at.
Best place to go, by the way.
Right. A lot of what you see on the news right now is new studies, what doctors are seeing, what doctors are saying. Problem is it's not peer-reviewed yet. So like any science, before you have a consensus, it can go one way or the other. But what is for sure right now is that, well, for mostly sure, I'll say that, it's an airborne droplet or surface droplet contamination is how this is transmitted. So someone coughs, the droplets with the virus in it can, go in the air from one person to another. That's why they're saying social distancing. Or surface droplets, they cough on their hand, they hold the doorknob. Next person touches the doorknob might pick it up on their hand. So for a haunt, this is tough. Actually, for any business, this is tough. But haunts, like you said last week, they're kind of a petri dish because we're dark, we're not always environmentally controlled, and moving a lot of people through small spaces in a small time.
Especially the actors are often cramped in small places together.
Right.
So, and then the customers are too. We call it the Conga Line for a reason.
Mm-hmm. And looking at that, there's a lot of little easy things, like propping open doors. Again, if it's a door the fire marshal allows you to prop open, you just removed the contact point for every group that walks through there. Fear flaps or, hanging body bags, they're cool, but again, that's something that everybody walking through there is going to touch. If you remove those contact points, you're removing that potential transmission. And you can replace those contact points. So a door or fear flaps being a visual obstruction. You could use some lighting. You're going from dark to bright, bright to dark. You could use the laser swamp effects. Those can make neat effects if you take that across the doorway with some fog even, or chilled fog going down a doorway, fobbles, anything of that nature where it's not something you have to touch, but it's still a visual obstruction. That can give you a nice visual block from room to room.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
And that's something that I know haunts haven't thought about before. Is like, I know we never really did, and I don't know any haunt we've ever worked at ever. Hell, most of the haunts we worked at didn't even put thoughts into putting the nails all the way into the wall, so...
In the actor area.
In the actor areas, at least.
Yeah.
Right.
The customers were fine.
Yeah.
The actors, however,
But, so yeah, in general, there are tips that haunts and other places could do better at to keep people, from getting sick just in a normal situation? What are some of those types of tips that you would give to people?
Like even in a non-pandemic year.
Yeah.
Right. So clean your handrails frequently. I mean, at least once a night in a normal situation. Any handrails you have, you want to clean those. Concessions areas, the gift shop areas, clean those areas. Maybe even have your cashiers use gloves, or this year promote more online ticketing. That way it's a contactless ticketing. They're just scanning a printed out or scanning someone's phone. That way you don't have the money going back and forth, things changing hands, and it just makes things easier and faster anyway.
Yeah. I love online ticketing personally, regardless of diseases.
Right.
I also would, adjusting group size be potentially important, because I know sometimes when we go through haunts, we get sandwiched in with 8 strangers in a group of 12 people, and things can kind of get a little intimate in that setting.
Right. And with the online ticketing, you can do your timed ticketing as well, so that way you're not going to have a ton of people all at once. You can spread it out throughout the night a little better. And even the queue line areas, because we know you can online ticket all day long, people are still going to show up without a time spot because they want to see the haunt. Perhaps reconstrue the queue lines this year so they're spread out a little further. Instead of doubling back on each other, put a little 3 or 6 foot space between the U's, if you have room. I'm sure not all haunts do. But that way you're not standing in a crowd right next to people for an hour. There's at least some social distancing.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I've been kind of pondering is, like, nobody knows how long this current craziness is going to last, right? We don't know. Yeah, I mean, I've heard estimates everything from 4 weeks to 7 months. I mean, basically, it could be like, this is just my life now, according to some people, if you watch the wrong news channels. But most haunters are expecting, or at least hoping, that the worst of this will pass before haunt season really begins to ramp up. That seems to be at least a reasonable possibility, according to the CDC and according to others, but it's still going to be on people's minds.
Right.
Do you think this is something the haunts really should focus on marketing toward as a means of, encouraging people to feel that comfortable getting back in crowded spaces again, or at least crowded-er spaces?
The marketing side of it's going to be tough, because people are going to think about things like, per se, if a haunt had the claustrophobia areas, that a lot of people, that might be a hard no now. VR headsets, or like safety glasses, 3D glasses, things of that nature, like the safety glasses for zombie paintball. People might see those and they'll think again, or the coffin rides even.
Oh, dear God, I rode in one of those.
Right? They're neat, but...
Actually,
talk about
mine was a
Lysol.
little rough, but all the smell, it was one of those with scents, and all the smells got mixed together, so it's like the roses come in, but the roses are mixed with the car exhaust, and it was weird. But yeah, now I'm thinking of the germs and all those smells.
Yes.
And in the past, I mean, when most things we had herd immunity to, or, get a cold, so what? It was fun Saturday night, but now that's something we have to consider. And I don't think it would be on the flyer, but definitely address somewhere in your social media that, hey, precautions are being taken, things are being changed. We're aware of this. We're respectful to it.
Right.
Yeah,
and I think that, I'm just throwing this out here and I'm going off the things. For the gift shop idea, you could even pre-package everything in plastic bags and get those little grabbers to hand them out.
Right, and perhaps even have the merchandise. Have the merchandise behind the counter, and they want a shot glass or something, you hand it to them as they buy it, so not everyone's handling everything in the gift shop. It will be a drastic change for sure for some, but...
Right.
Yeah, who knew the 13th Gate had the most hygienic gift shop we've ever been to? We'll have to tell Dwayne that.
Right?
But... So yeah, no, that's a good point. Is minimizing the number of people that have contact with items,
right,
is becoming increasingly important. And I read a thing today, like Walmart. We get Walmart grocery delivery. Walmart sent us a thing today about how now the delivery people, when they pull up to get their get our groceries, they don't come in contact with the person loading the car, and the delivery person doesn't come in contact with us. They're creating these chains of separation. We never thought about these things until right now.
Yeah, I wonder if it would be possible with like the lines, the queue lines, to be able to set up like little pods, so you like let into like a little fenced area or cattle gate area with your group, and you get stuck there.
Actually, I think the best idea was Camp Blood.
Yeah,
Camp Blood. I don't know if you're familiar with this one. It's a Georgia haunt. What they do is they don't have a queue line at all.
No.
You get a card as you buy your ticket, and you're in that group, A, B, C, D, I think it goes up to F or whatever.
Yeah.
And you get to mill around this giant outdoor mall space where you could effectively social distance all day long. It's a huge enough space. And you can also look at shops and things like that. And then when your number's called, then you go into the haunt.
Nice.
I mean, that's a really neat idea, and I've always thought of it was awesome from a queue line experience and a shopping standpoint, but it's also much better from this standpoint as well, from a disease prevention standpoint.
Yeah, this could be a boon right there.
And maybe this is going to be the impetus to finally push haunts that direction.
Right, and we went to another Georgia haunt that used, it wasn't working very well, but they used text to your phone to let you know that it was your time to come in.
Yeah, but the problem with that one is obviously text messaging gets unreliable when you're crowded in with hundreds of other people waiting on text messages.
Yeah.
So
depends on the size of the haunt.
Yeah. But no, yeah, there's a lot of interesting ways haunts could definitely minimize this contact. Mm-hmm. And also I think one of the good things is going to be for haunts to actively, maybe not like make it the lead thing. I mean, but mention it. And I think you were right. Maybe don't put it on the flyer, but put it on social media. And this is something that you could start now, theoretically. Start the marketing of the things that you're going to change and the ways things you're going to do different. Right. If you're able to open this year, when and if you open. That does bring me to another question, though. Safety while working on a haunt and building haunt. For a lot of haunts, it is haunt build season, and a lot of these haunt build crews can be fairly sizable. Any suggestions for those building their haunt?
Tools are... If you've ever worked in a contractor sense, have everyone use their own tools. Put tape on it, label your tools. I used to do low voltage wiring, which is part of why I know so much about the tech tip side of things. And every time somebody would come into work sick, we would they'd be with us, they'd be in the work van, but don't touch my tools. Because all day long you're using your screwdriver, using your drill, and then you don't even think about it. You touch your face, you get a piece of sawdust in your eye. Next thing you know, it's from hand to tool to eye or to mouth. So keep your tools separate. That is...
that's good advice, and I'm going to rank don't touch your face as the most impossible advice.
Exactly.
We went grocery shopping yesterday, and I'm like, okay, don't touch your face while you're... And next thing I know, it's like every flake, every eyelash hits my face at once. It's like, God damn it. It's impossible. But yeah, no, that's a really good idea. And also, I'm going to guess that it's a good idea to maybe work in smaller groups in separate areas of the haunt, for example, to break up into smaller teams, right? Especially if you have a larger haunt.
And like you had mentioned whenever we were talking about this, to not do the most dangerous work.
Yeah. Because if you get a broken arm or a bad cut that needs stitches, now may not be the time you want to be going to your local medical facility. Exactly,
because they're already pretty busy. To say
they're already pretty busy, and that is probably the worst place to be if you don't have COVID-19. Mm-hmm. That's the one place you can almost guarantee it is. So yeah, maybe save the ladder work or the dangerous sawing or whatever non-OSHA compliant work you're going to do for just a wee little bit later.
Right.
So yeah, that's another good point. Thanks for reminding me of that. I'd completely forgotten I said that. Wow, I'm really smart in your memory. But yeah. So honestly, it sounds like the big focus right now for haunts is minimizing contact points, both with their workers and their crew. That's actually a good point, though. What about the actors? Because we can't always trust haunt owners to be super responsible. If you're an actor, we can't. Okay, understatement of the year. I know. Not every haunt operator is Chris Gay.
You just threw all the haunt owners underneath the bus. You know that.
I'm just going to say the haunt owners I've worked with, I love them all. They're very good friends. But, yeah, they don't always think of actor safety until, something happens. But, yeah, so what would you recommend actors do to protect themselves?
Well, one thing that's going to be huge this year is going to be your wardrobe and makeup rooms, because you probably don't want to have 40 costumes hanging on the same rack at the end of the night, because that's almost no different than 40 people in a dog pile, essentially.
Right.
So I'm glad you went with dog pile.
Right. So and again, this is going to vary from haunt to haunt, per se, a Six Flags, one of the big shows like that. This would be a point of contention when you have that many, but perhaps have your actors sign out their costumes, their masks, their props, their gloves, and have them keep that with them for the season. Or at the very least, clean everything every night, which we know some haunt costumes may not survive a trip through the washing machine. Or
you could get some of those dry cleaner type covers and put that on before you hang it back up at the very least.
Right.
That's direct contact material.
Yeah, definitely. Beyond that, even makeup brushes, makeup sponges, things like that. Perhaps consider... go ahead.
I'm starting to realize why haunts are petri dishes.
Well,
yeah.
And I've been to a lot of makeup talks at HauntCon over the years, and they all say between every person, they use 99% alcohol solution to spray their brushes because it dries fast and it kills all the germs between person to person. Would that be accurate?
Theoretically, I can't make any guarantees. I hate to say it. Perhaps this year consider getting each actor their own makeup brush. I know they're not cheap, but versus losing an actor for the season, because if a 14-day quarantine in haunt season, I mean, that's guaranteed half your season, if not a third.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I could see people going more to using
disposable
spray brush,
airbrushing, which actually creates its own issue, possibly, depending on the source of that air.
Right.
Yeah, compressed air, I don't know of any studies about compressed air being violently safe or how to filter compressed air. That is a consideration. At least have your compressor not in a crowded area.
Yeah.
Maybe don't have it in the coughing room.
Right.
Yeah. Speaking of that, that's a great segue in.
Yeah, one of the topics... Go ahead.
One of the things I've been thinking about a lot is, should haunts avoid, sick rooms, sick scenes, where people are coughing, and do you think looking forward, do you think that this might be too of a emotional situation for people to see that and try to walk through those dirty, dingy hospital scenes that a lot of haunts have?
We'll definitely need to wait and see how it plays out. I think that's too soon to call, because if there are a lot of deaths, if there are businesses going under, people losing their incomes, people losing their houses, we go to haunts to get away from things, to go to a fantasy world. If it's still there with this, if the repercussions are still fresh in mind, it might not be the fun time.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. That's one of the big unknowns for me and for a lot of businesses broadly, is what's people's mood going to be like when this is over?
Yeah.
When the social distancing ends, when all that's over, are people going to immediately want to hug and have block parties? Mm-hmm. Or is there going to be some reluctance to go back to that? And honestly, we can't and don't know. A lot of it, like you said, it's going to be how this plays out and how many deaths there are and how significant the repercussions are.
Right.
We don't know that yet. We're still in the early stages of this.
Yeah.
And we're trying to, that's a crystal ball moment if I've ever seen one. So call Shirley MacLaine. So yeah, that's a valid point. So I would say keep an eye on public attitudes and perceptions about this.
Mm-hmm.
just basically see what goes on there. So, yeah, it's very interesting, and I like your idea of focusing on the makeup room and that area, because a lot of haunts definitely don't think about safety in that area.
Mm-hmm.
That's just the break room, That's just a room they set up to store the clothes and have the makeup chairs and so forth. It's not really at the forefront of safety, because that's not where actors get punched. It's what we hear. So, yeah, there's going to have to be a renewed focus on that. And I like some of your suggestions. Are there any other? You mentioned getting rid of the claustrophobia tunnels and any doors/body bags. Are there any other haunt construction tips? Any other design tips that you think might be useful?
Thinking for the higher risk actors, maybe those over 60, the awesome people over 60 that work at your haunt, consider different types of scares for them this year. Maybe elevate them, because if someone does cough, the droplets will usually go straight out or down. So if they're up high, they should be safer. Maybe put them in a Pepper's Ghost type effect, or even behind plexiglass. They can beat and bang on the plexiglass, and they still have that barrier. Or if anyone's immunocompromised, that's just a way they can still be there, still do some scaring, but make that social distance for that actor even within the haunt.
Yeah, Lexan doesn't just stop hammers; it stops droplets.
Yes.
Put that in the slogan now. I love me some good Lexan. I really do.
I like the idea of old people on big perches yelling down at the crowd.
Yeah, you can do a lot of interesting things, and I think that's one of the things I love about this industry is we take challenges like this and we face them with creativity.
Yeah. Oh.
And hopefully that's exactly what this will be taken as. It's not as something to defy, but as a creative challenge to overcome. And how do you be healthily scary in light of everything that's been going on?
Yeah, because so I keep coming back to this thought of in the queue line, and instead of just having hand sanitizing stations set up, have a decontamination center. This goes along with playing with those. You would have to be careful about what public perception is, but it could be a fun thing to set up with hand sanitizers and face mask and stuff. But I don't know. Yeah,
and that's something we were talking about just at our home haunt, is actually adding a hand sanitizer station at the entrance/exit. Not really so much for disease prevention. I mean, it would help with that, obviously, but also for public assurance and public confidence.
Right, because some of this is playing to making people feel safe.
Yeah. And, I mean, we are an industry that plays to perception a lot, and that's the thing. So, we need to be aware of our perception of safety and in this particular area. All in all, I think that's a lot of good ideas there to be thinking about. Minimizing contact points, trying to enforce social distancing, at least moderately, between actors and customers, customers and customers, actors and actors. Anything else? Any other suggestions?
And I think you're totally right there with the perception of things. This year, that hand sanitizer station may be just as reassuring as a bunch of security guards visible. So that's a thought. One other idea I came up with actually just now with the actor to customer side of things, props. Instead of having, your face-to-face interactions, if the customer does get a little too close, especially those queue line actors where everyone wants the selfie, give your actors some sort of prop this year that they can kind of make a standoff distance with. Be it, a fake axe, or it's a, zombie riot team and they actually have riot shields. Because those things look great in pictures, and it gives the actor a way to kind of hold somebody at bay if they need to.
Okay, so I need a 6-foot-long axe.
Yeah.
And we need to start selling these so that actors can say, no, don't come near me. I will cut you.
But I mean, he's got a point, though.
No, I know.
We never really thought about queue line actors.
Yeah, well,
I know I get asked for selfies every year.
Yeah, you're a little bit safer because you're in gloves and mask, but and it's a mask that isn't shared.
Yeah, and it's a mask that's not shared. And I know for a fact all the droplets from my face go into my mask.
Yeah.
They dump out in a giant gross glob at the end of the night. Ain't nobody getting hit with those, believe me.
But yeah, I mean, that's one of the other things that we do in this industry is we play a lot with personal space and trying to get close. And now that might have to be an actor change in how you train actors.
Or, and like you said, I think it was a good idea, using props to do that personal space invasion. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of ways to invade personal space or introduce a touch effect without actually touching someone. And no-touch haunts have been exploring this for years, which that raises the next obvious question. Mm-hmm. Touch versus no-touch haunts in the age of COVID-19.
Yeah, this will be a tough year. Actually, years ago, Heretic, one of the extreme haunts out in L.A., they did a show called Paratoxic, which, thinking about that nowadays, my God, that would have been a nightmare. It came out of the place filthy and supposedly infected, so on and so forth. That would never fly nowadays. But yeah, it's going to be a challenge. Some of the extreme haunts, like Blackout even, they always did the surgical masks for every patron, which... It was an identity. It was more of an artistic thing, but at the same time, it did keep the patrons' spit out of their employees' faces. So not that that's practical right now, because honestly, we're having a hard time getting them at the rescue squad even. But per se, later this year, surgical masks do come out. It could be a thought.
Right. And I've seen online a lot of people trying to make homemade masks. What are your thoughts on those?
For the most part, it's possibly better than nothing in preventing them from infecting someone else.
Yeah.
But for any airborne particles, unless you have a seal, they will find a way. It's unfortunate there's such a shortage right now. Hopefully things catch up, but of course we're coming off the Chinese New Year plus China shut down, and most of this is unfortunately made overseas, so it will take a while for these to get back in stock.
Someone likened this to when the hurricane hit Puerto Rico, and apparently the only factory in the world that made IV bags was in Puerto Rico, or is in Puerto Rico, and that caused a huge shortage in those for an extended period of time. And that's just, even without the pandemic, there would be a shortage of a lot of this stuff anyway.
Right.
And then you add in the panic buying, and there ain't no toilet paper, and in the grocery store, if you can explain the toilet paper thing, we will be the most popular podcast in the world, like immediately.
Yeah, I guess people thought they're going to be stuck at home. I don't understand 40 rolls. I understand a pack or two. But
yeah.
Now, how much toilet paper do you use? Like, seriously, if you use that much toilet paper, you need to see a doctor about something else.
Yeah, definitely.
And you see people with like 40 rolls, and it's like, dude, if you need that much for a 2 to 3 week quarantine, I got some news for you. It's not COVID you need to be worried about. Oh man, but so yeah, it's a crazy, crazy time. But yeah, I don't know, man. I didn't even thought about the touch versus no touch haunt thing until like right then.
Yeah, I could see a Q line actor being like over the top cautious about germs, and like when people like get too close, go and put a pole between them and say, no, you can't be that close. Or when they touch the railing, come behind them with a spray bottle and a rag, or like Clorox wipes if they're available, and wipe down the thing behind them.
And you know, it's funny.
That'd be fun.
What you just reminded me of actually reminds me of one of my trips to Disney. Mm-hmm. So with my younger brother, we met the character Gaston. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if he still does this, but when we saw him, every time he would, shake hands with someone, he's in a glove. I mean, he's in a costume. He's in a giant, grotesque, not real costume. But every time he would shake hands, he'd immediately like wipe it down, like on himself, and with a rag, and like didn't want to get near people. And so yeah, you could make a character around that if you wanted to, very, very easily. And that's the thing. It's like those characters that specialize in getting up close and that intimacy. It's riskier, not just from an illness standpoint, but from a perception standpoint.
Right.
And that's one of the problems we're having. It's like a lot of these haunts that stayed open, I have to wonder, like on the 13th, I have to wonder if they're going to face backlash down the road if people ended up getting sick there.
And that is going to be so hard to trace back, because that's one of the concerns with this is the 2 to 14 day incubation period where they say you could be infectious and not even know you had it. So tracing that back exactly would be very difficult.
And I think that makes it worse for haunts, because then you look for scapegoats if you can't get an actual source. What was the last big gathering you were at? Oh, I went to the Friday the 13th show at blah, blah, blah. You know? You don't want to be the last public event someone was at before they got sick.
Exactly.
So, yeah. All in all, I mean, a lot of good information in here. I mean, a lot to think about and a lot to ponder. We've got a few more minutes, though. If there's anything else you would like to say to people that might be worried about this, maybe there are people concerned, or maybe there are people who are the opposite and not concerned at all and are being totally, reckless about it.
Going to the beach.
Yeah, those people.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely going to be a confusing time. I don't know if you've seen the guide cards where they compare the symptoms of the COVID-19 versus the flu versus a cold versus allergies. It doesn't show that many symptoms until it gets bad, essentially. The one that you see overseas a lot, they're starting to use the contactless thermometers to check and see if someone has a fever before they let them into a business. And I don't think we'll do that for every single customer at the door, but perhaps we do that for actors at the beginning of the night. Yeah. Just to see.
I would have a lot of fun with that.
And honestly, if someone comes to work with a fever in general, COVID-19 or not, they're probably sick with something. So perhaps consider sending them home that night. And I know a lot of haunts run short on people. Some hire extra beginning of the season so they have more for the sick nights, for the, I've got, my drama club tonight, football game, homecoming, whatever. So maybe this is a year to bring on extra people in reserve.
Yeah.
And just try not to work your people too hard that they're extremely tired, because, we haunters, we never get extremely tired doing what we love, but
no, we get tired after we're done doing it.
Yeah, about 5 minutes after.
5 seconds? What are you talking about? Okay, we're close.
Right.
Little puddle of goo on the floor named Jonathan. You okay, buddy? Yeah, but yeah, the reason I said I'd have fun with the contactless thermometer is because I run so cold. My average body temperature is 96.8. I used to freak out school nurses for fun as a kid. It was a very mean joke in hindsight, but yeah. So I don't know if I'm running if I'm at 98.6, you probably need to be thinking about calling a doctor.
No.
But yeah, I do think that's the taking temperatures and making sure people aren't at least actively sick for the actors makes sense, because they're the ones that are going to be in the confined rooms, namely like the makeup room, the actor room, the costuming room, all that stuff, the break rooms. And also they're the ones that can get the customers sick and, like I said, contaminate the rest of the acting team. So, yeah, that's not a terrible idea. I guess a lot of it, like we said, is we're going to have to wait and see what happens when this eventually does end.
Yeah.
Because that's the problem, is we do not know what the end game of this is. We don't know how long it's going to take. We don't know what people's attitudes are going to be on the backside.
Right. And you keep seeing, they say, flatten the curve, because essentially it's going to run its course one way or the other unless a miracle vaccine is come up with. So the whole flatten the curve thing is due to, they call it hospital surge. They don't want too many people sick at once, overwhelming the hospitals, overwhelming medical supplies, and essentially shutting down facilities because the providers are all sick. So unfortunately, they are prolonging this. However, it's to avoid that surge, avoid the overwhelming all at once sickness. So
the idea is this might take 2 months or 3 months, but that's better than everyone getting sick in a 3-week period.
Exactly.
And basically, look what happened to toilet paper. There's your analogy. Yeah, all you idiots went out and bought toilet paper at once. Now we're out of toilet paper. If all y'all get sick at once, we're out of medical care.
Right. There's only so many ventilators. There's only so many providers. Only so many beds.
Yeah, there's only so much of everything.
And for the most part, most people, you get home, or you get sick, you stay at home and take care of it like a standard cold, like a flu. And because there's palliative treatment that can treat the symptoms, but there isn't a miracle drug to say, okay, you're better now. It's not Tamiflu. So it's going to be just staying home and dealing with it unless you actually need that medical care, which would be respiratory difficulty or a fever that gets out of check. And that's something we're dealing with right now is the hospitals, they don't want someone that's minimally sick because it could be COVID, it could be the flu, it could be allergies. But if you don't have that life threat, it's not the time to go to the hospital. They do have the testing centers being set up. Of course, the FEMA center, they're setting up in Philly today. Everyone's panicking. Oh, my God, it's FEMA, government takeover. No, it's testing facilities. But they don't want people that don't actively need extreme medical care seeking extreme medical care.
And they just opened up drive-through testing here in New Orleans, actually at the hospital, one of the hospitals nearest to us. In fact, a friend of ours was the first person to get tested. He was negative. He came back negative, by the way.
Okay.
Good for him. Good for Mike. But So do you advise people that do feel minimally sick to just get tested, especially like that drive-through testing,
or to stay home,
or just to stay home and just not really care if it's COVID or flu?
The current advisement here is to either call your doctor, or they're starting to set up services for telemedicine. Really cool. You log on, basically do a little WebEx or Skype call, whatever, back and forth with a doctor, and they'll advise if you meet testing criteria, or if, just ride it out for now, call back if symptoms get worse, because they're trying not to crowd the hospitals. And it is great that we have this technology now that they can do telemedicine and, from the comfort of your home, you can call your doctor. And
my doctor,
free.
Yeah, my doctor can now tell me I drink too much and eat too many fatty foods from the comfort of my own home. It's great. It's great. It's wonderful. Well, Chris, I think we're running short on time. I wanted to say thank you again for all that you've done, for both sitting down with us during this very busy time, and also for all that you're doing out there to help combat this disease. I know it hasn't reached your county yet, but you man those battle stations. It's coming.
Right.
That seems to be the consensus. It's coming. We can flatten the curve, but it's still coming. But yeah, thank you for all that you're doing, and also thank you for the great HauntCon talk. I don't know if we mentioned that in the intro.
It was very useful. It was some things I hadn't thought about.
Yeah, I mean, and
still need to get those tourniquet kits.
Yeah, I was about to say it was a lot of really good hands-on training, and we do need to pick up some tourniquet kits, because that's one of the things I learned was about how to apply a tourniquet, and it's like, wow, TV tells you exactly wrong how to do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it turns out it's not just put a towel around your leg. So, thank you for the education you provide and the help you give everyone.
Yeah, always happy to be out there, and I love to educate, because that way it just goes further and further, that wonderful ripple effect. So hope it helps more than I can help with my hands here.
Well, I hope so too, and I definitely know you're reaching people and changing minds and passing along a lot of great new information. On that note, everyone, thank you for spending the past near hour with us. It's been episode 225. Like I said, it's a very difficult and strange time for everyone, but I hope this was useful. I know I learned a lot. I just had a lot of new thoughts put in my brain. Chris really dropped some stuff here on us. Yeah. I'm going to go tear down my haunt. Okay, maybe not that drastic.
It's Lysol. It'll be good.
Well, we do not have any body bags this year.
No, we don't have any thing that you have to push through.
No, we actually have nothing you have to touch this year, so we're actually pretty well set up in that regard. No doors, no body bags. We're actually pretty well set up in that regard. But on that note, thank you for joining us. I'm Jonathan.
I'm Crystal.
And that was Chris Gay from HauntTechTips.com. Check him out there and check out his YouTube channel. Find out, what's your YouTube channel, Chris?
YouTube.com/HauntTechTips.
Oh, I could have just guessed.
You could have.
I find it from links. I'm very lazy. I'm very lazy. But yes, youtube.com/HauntDetectives. Check out his work there. Such amazing stuff. Thank you again, Chris. And we will see you guys next week.